Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the place to race, Simsport Racing. It's Wednesday night. It's now back to GT4 action. Alex Goldschmidt with you once again, and I'm pleased to welcome my new co-commentator for Season 4. We announced him on Sunday night. Good evening, Tim Fullbrook. How are you?
Good evening, Alex. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Really excited to be joining you in the virtual commentary box. I was promised by our fantastic director, Mike Yao, some tea and jammy dodgers, but the departing Steve proudly must have nabbed those on his way out. But yeah, really excited to be joining you here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what I can bring to you guys watching from home.
Indeed. Well, he's probably used them as energy for tonight's race, because the big news is that Steve Proudly is actually competing. But as you've probably seen in the build-up to this, we are welcoming some very, very respective drivers. Jenson Button, Alex Bunken, Sebastian Priaulx, Pietro Fittipaldi, Luca Burke and Michael O'Brien. Luca's been more prominent in the sim racing world, but of course we are at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, one of the latest tracks that was brought onto ACC as part of the DLC pack. It is 40 kilometers east of Bologna, and it recently hosted the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, obviously in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we hope you're all keeping safe and well out there. Got around 30 odd cars that are going to be racing around this 4.909 kilometer, 3.050 mile circuit. As good evening to everyone on the chat. Mark Neutelings, Steve Proudly's good lady Jackie, Harry Crook saying Big Bag Tim. Well, obviously that's giving a shout out to Mr. Fullbrook. Also got Steve Hinden at Esports Designs, who unveiled those fantastic liveries that we're going to see from the likes of Fittipaldi, Prio, Buncombe, Button, et al. Also, you can also head to pitwall.live for the official live timing. So it's a free account. You don't even need to pay a subscription fee every month. You can sign up actually by using Facebook or Google. Before I forget, if you're watching on all of the relevant channels, if you're watching on the Simsport Racing Twitch, YouTube and Facebook group, please, why not, if you're not part of it, why not be a part of it? Hit the subscribe button, also hit the notification bell, and give this video a bit of a thumbs up. Also, one of the other drivers I do recognise from days of yore, someone who normally frequents the virtual commentary box alongside Steve Proudly and other adventures, Dave Marshall. Good evening, Andrew Five said, good to see you are in a car at last, Steve. All the very best. Good evening, Andrew. Yeah, let's see how Cameron gets on this evening. Cameron, who's got a new sim rig, I understand, and is looking forward to getting stuck in this evening. Gavin Utley, well, hopefully, buddy, we'll wait and see if you do get your sim rig up and running. But also, the championship itself is 6 rounds. We're going to have a qualification session for the first race this evening, 20 minutes in duration, but then we switch to what we used in season 3. The driver that ends up P15 at the end of the race will go to pole position for the next round, and that will take place at Zolder in Belgium on the 20th of January. Circuit Zandvoort, round 3, 27th of January. Misano, the 3rd of February for round 4. It's either going to be Donington Park or Paul Ricard, round 5 on the 10th of February, and then it's either going to be Snetterton or Hungaroring on the 17th of February, but it looks more to be the case of maybe the latter on both occasions. So, sorry, in March. There's a lot of Februarys in my calendar, is there? Apparently, according to...
I was going to say, Alex, I mean, you couldn't get a better season. You look at that lineup of tracks, it's fantastic. And you know it's going to be a good racetrack when the corners have names. You know, I hate going to tracks where it's turn 1 and turn 2. There's no emotion and soul. But today we've got the Tamburellos, the Villeneuves, the Tozers. It's fantastic to be racing here. And not only are the names of the track exciting, the names on the track, like you say, are very thrilling. It's going to be great to see how these seasoned Simsport drivers go up against some of the big names in the real racing world. We've got a proper cracker to kick off this 4th season. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, also, don't forget, we've already started with Season 5 of GT3. The second round of that will be a 90-minute race at Kyalami on the 24th of January. That will be a mandatory 1 pit stop per driver. And we got a cracker at Brands Hatch with Simon Crane actually leading the standings after round 1 at Brands Hatch. Good evening to Dean Riley. Good evening to Jordan Brennan, who said, good luck to the big Dave Marshall. Haha. Yeah, okay. Well, Dave Marshall, he's going to be going into defending his championship. We have to give a shout out to our good friends at the Virtual Reality Racing Club, Rich Hayden. They are starting the 2nd season of the Mini Challenge UK E-Series, which kicks off, I believe it is this coming Saturday, and we are now underway with our qualifying session. Michael O'Brien, people might remember this guy from British GT. He's one of the many cars from Zancho Simsport, but also from Rocket Esports, and you look at the list of names down the left-hand side there, Tim. It's going to be rather interesting, as there he is, the man himself, the number 22, the one and only Mr. Jensen Button. Those liveries look epic on those Caymans, don't they?
Yeah, they look brilliant. I mean, this GT4 grid is normally quite the spectrum of colour and design, but this evening, it's great to see those colours obviously made famous by the Brawn GP Formula 1 car that Jensen Button took to 2009 Formula 1 World Championship, but yeah, it's great to see these guys here. Great to see them getting their teeth stuck into what is a flourishing and exciting championship. I think what we're going to be really looking for here in qualifying is, where are these guys going to end up? Are these, pro drivers, if you like, going to find themselves in the middle of the grid, right in the heart of the action? It's not going to be made easy for them if they find themselves there come race start, or are they going to be towards the front and trying to decide the race? The top 5-10 places between themselves. So it's going to be an interesting qualifying. Obviously, the only qualifying of the season. So yeah, let's see where these guys end up. As obviously they're on their out laps now, getting the cars warmed up. Tyres up to pressure. Really, for some of these guys, it's it's not the first lap that's your best one. You're going to keep going. You're going to bring the car in. You might even make a couple of changes. I know a lot of these guys do a lot of practice. You might even make a couple of changes during qualifying just to get the car dialed in for your quick lap, as we see Pietro Fittipaldi here backing off to kind of give himself some room on the exit of the final corner at Rivazza onto the start-finish straight. It's not really a straight, is it? But it's great to see these guys, getting wound up and getting ready. It's an exciting start. I mean, qualifying is always pretty thrilling, but particularly this evening. And here's Steve Proudly, the man of the moment, I suppose, to some extent.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, he's got the racing itch back well and truly. When I spoke to him earlier on, he said, well, I'm teamed up with good old Kieran Vidago. That's going to be an impressive team. We've got a Simsport Racing and a Simsport Solutions team in Season 4 GT4. Steve said, well, if I get top 20, I'll be really happy, but I'm really pushing for the top 10. Good evening. It seems like the banter's already started between John Monroe and Ross McGregor, good friends of Simsport Racing, of course. There's Aaron Walker, the Season 1 champion. And what's even more impressive is that here we have all 3 champions from the first 3 seasons. Aaron Walker took Season 1, Stephen Haley took Season 2, but the person with the target on their back is the driver in the number 1 BMW M4 GT4, Karolis Sipavicius. There is the number 1. And Ross McGregor's already put his prediction in, Luca Burke, in the 87 Porsche. Now, obviously, one of the biggest things that we're going to have here, Tim, this evening, is that ballast has been actually given to respective cars. The BMW M4, 10 kilos. The Porsche 718 Cayman, 40 kilos. Aston Martin, 30 kilos. Mercedes AMG GT4, which is being run by the likes of Charlie Crossland from Team Fordzilla, the 20 kilo ballast. And then you've got cars like the Ginetta G55 and the Chevrolet Camaro. Obviously, there are a couple of your friends here as well. Angus Martin and Michael Haffenden, the old HF Impala crew. Obviously, Tim was racing in the last couple of seasons. And good to see Denise Pope in the Wild Things Racing number 79. She's back with us. And good evening, Virtual Reality Racing Club. John Monroe says Alex Buncombe will be worth keeping an eye on. Very impressive in testing. John, you might want to check your spell checker before you do that, or use Grammarly maybe, as the times are coming in. And Yannick Miller in the 143 Chevrolet is absolutely hooning that car around the circuit in 1 minute 50.082. Charlie Crossland, 66,000 behind. Then it's Jensen Button, and then Regan Mitchell, Stephen Haley rounding out the top 5. Well, that's quickly changed as the number 87 of Luca Burke goes up into 3rd place on a 150.295, and we just saw a quick glance of Michael Haffenden. There's Charlie Crossland, 66,000 behind. Aidan Bro, who switched to the Aston Martin Vantage. He was running the Audi R8 LMS. He was 3rd in last season, but I had a good chat with him earlier on today. He said, I've got a good sense of the car. He's used the Vantage V8 on GT3, so he knows the machinery well. And he said, hopefully I won't have any brake problems like I did with the Audi in the first few races in Season 3. So,
sorry, Alex, just to touch on the ballast point you made. Obviously, that doesn't sound a lot maybe to those who aren't too familiar with racing or how ballast might work, but having to carry an extra 40 kilos in some cases is massive, and especially in this first and only qualifying session of the season, as we see Colin Dunn in a pretty spicy livery, if I do say so myself, on that Aston Martin Vantage GT4. When the cars are on really low tanks of fuel, they're probably the lightest they'll be. To still have that ballast on board, it really does make a difference, and we could see the grid shuffled a bit in this first qualifying session with ballast because of its introduction for this season.
Yeah, well, the times are very much changing as Ollie Gill goes off the road. Aaron Martin Pilkington in the 626 Fun Q Ginetta E10. Now, the Ginetta's a car that you have used previously. Now, obviously, we need a bit of driver insight, and Tim's the perfect person for that, as we see one of the cars go a bit wide. I think it was coming through Tamburello, but a very, very interesting beast, this car, isn't it, Tim?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's such a small and light car compared to some of the other GT4s. I mean, if you were to stand the Ginetta and the Chevrolet Camaro next to each other, you'd be surprised to say that they could race in the same series, same championship. But the Ginetta's quite, like it's a light car. It's quite skittish on some occasions. Really have to tune the car in and dial it in to keep it planted. Curbs can knock this car flying, and fortunately at Imola there's a lot of these curbs are quite flat for the circuits used for motorbike racing as well, but there are over the red and white and green curves, like you'll see there through Aqua Minerale on the second apex and on the exit. They're these yellow sleeping policeman style curves, and particularly in the Ginetta that would really knock you off course.
Yep, so Steve Haley currently rounding out the... Regan Mitchell's put in a flyer, the first driver to go, sub 1 minute 50. He's put a 149.959 in the number 69 McLaren Simsport Racing entry.
That's a very quick lap.
That is a very quick lap indeed, and he goes a little bit wide through there, so Regan Mitchell definitely pushing the limits of adhesion, but the 570 is another car that has no ballast on it. So some of these drivers have been very, very strategic with their car choices, haven't they? As we see one of the Zancho cars, that I think that was coming through, that was probably going through Piratella, if memory serves me correctly, I believe, or Aqua Minerale. But yeah, just the way that the McLaren seems to be really on point, and he's gapped the Chevrolet of Yannick Miller by just over a tenth, and then Charlie Crossland's really closed up as well.
I mean, it's already looking like quite a strong package. The McLaren hasn't really featured over the last few seasons. It's kind of been shunned in favour of the Porsches, the BMWs, the Mercedes. I mean, some people have even picked the Maserati over the McLaren, which is an interesting selection. I think our beloved Dave Hedges has been lighting the world up with his Maserati last season. But yeah, we're really starting to see some interesting developments really in this qualifying session. I mean, look at the times. The top 16 are separated by just over a second already, with Regan Mitchell looking fairly untouchable at the top of the times. Whilst Yannick Miller, I say that, Yannick Miller's going 2/10 up apparently, so there's already a chance for Mitchell to be knocked off top spot with 10 minutes to go.
So here is Yannick Miller in the 143, bit of a matte and bright fluorescent yellow livery there, as he's now, and I think he's lost a bit of momentum there, so he's now going to come through the second left-hander Rivazza as Dave Marshall's about to cross the line. Dave Marshall goes up and he's gone from 12th to 8th position.
Wow, so Jenson Button, sorry to interrupt, Alex. Jenson Button's just jumped up about 5 or 6 places. He was outside the top 10, and we're seeing a quick time already from the 2009 F1 champ up to 6th place, behind Luca Burke though. So he's not top of this pro class, if you like, just yet. Still some more work to do for Jenson. But Angus Martin, here we go, one of my old teammates in the HF Impala Racing Camaro, looking like he's 3/10 up on his time at the moment. So Angus looking to build on his lap so far, and that's kind of what you do in these qualifying sessions. You go out, set a time, okay, what went wrong, what went right, where can I find time, and just build and build and build, and I'm sure we'll see some quicker times come in the final 8 minutes of this session.
Yeah, so with Angus Martin at the moment, still has the old Paddock Hill signage on the back, as it did have on all the cars over the past few seasons, but now with that big plastic front grille on that, which breathing in a lot of air at the moment. We go on board the front nose cam into the chicane.
I mean, look at those curbs there through the Variante Alta. That's kind of the thing I was mentioning earlier. Those are the kind of curbs that can really knock some of these GT4 cars offline, and it's difficult to gain that time back. As he's plunging down the hill now into Ravazza, the final 2 corners. Let's see if he can get it hooked up nicely through the first apex. A lot of track use on the right hand side, and looks like a fairly good exit out of the final corner. You're really just hoping and praying that your relative isn't dropping down on your screen as you fire towards the finish line. Let's see what time this is from Angus.
Okay, crosses the line, goes P16. That drops Steve Proudly down to 20th position. Proudly, in the meantime, is actually ahead of Sebastian Priaulx. In the top 20, covered by just over 1.1 seconds. We're with Charlie Crossland, who now exits the second left-hander at Rivazza, currently P3. And he is 17 thousandths behind Yannick Miller. Team Fordzilla driver now crosses line, goes P2 and goes 15 thousandths quicker than Yannick Miller. Steve Haley rounds out the top 4 ahead of Luca Burke, Jenson Button, Aaron Walker, Aidan Bro, Dave Marshall, and the defending champion Carolus Sipavicius. There's Mark Ranbury, currently sitting in 29th position, running the number 750. Normally used to seeing him running in the 75 most of the times in the Dunn Motorsport CST Ginetta G55. There's Gerard de Bar, one of our Flying Dutchmen here at Simsport Racing in the Simbro Sport Chevy Camaro. Originally was a project developed by Reiter Engineering, who did the Reiter Engineering Lamborghini RX3 GT3, and then they did the Chevrolet Camaro GT3 and GT4, so not a GM-backed project, as he's now making his way. He's exited out of the Variante Alta. Now he's going into, I think he's going down. Well, he's going down the dip, so this is going to be towards Acqua Minerale. And,
yeah, I mean, what a fantastic looking car that is. I mean, you wouldn't miss that in your rear mirror, was you? Especially on this tight track like this. And here we go, Pietro Fittipaldi. Yeah, 2 tenths up, it looks like, on the timing screens, down in 16th. That's, you know, you would maybe expect better from a Formula 1 driver, Pietro Fittipaldi, obviously. And apparently, as we've just, with these guys joining us for this race this evening, Pietro Fittipaldi only installing the race on Friday.
Well, considering the fact that he jumped in for Romain Grosjean for both the last 2 rounds, the Sakhir Grand Prix and the Yas Marina finale last year, that is, that's how quickly you can get called up in Formula 1. But then also to only have installed the game on Friday and to be in the mid-pack, and he's half a second up already. So the grandson of 2-time Formula 1 world champion Emerson Fittipaldi, and also his brother Enzo, is racing in the lower classes of Formula single-seater racing. So he's now going through. Stephen Haley is trying to go across the line, goes P1, 61 hundredths, 60 thousandths ahead. Fittipaldi now comes out of Rivazza, and he's let's see if he can wind his way. I think he's going to be in at the very least into the top 10 as the number 51 Porsche 718 Cayman comes across the line. All close, P13. So not a bad job from Pietro there. Yannick Miller, P4. And would you believe this? Charlie Crossland has got to within 3 1,000ths off of Regan Mitchell. 63 thousandths covering the top 3 drivers. And at the moment, we have 34. We know who Patrick Ribeiro is cheering on for. He's cheering on for Pietro Fittipaldi at the moment. He was currently P13. But nevertheless, still to be 0.63 seconds off. And he's just 24 thousandths off of Kieran Vidago. It's incredibly tight between the top 13 at the moment, Tim.
Yeah, it's very impressive, and you see Yannick Miller here. Wow, he jumps up to second place, closes that gap to Haley down to 24 thousandths of a second. We'd like to say he was benefiting probably from that tow from the car in front. It looked like the BMW of Cameron Fyfe potentially, but fantastic. I mean, look at that, top 5 separated by less than 3 tenths of a second. It's really closing up into these final few minutes here at qualifying. Aaron Walker in 7th place. He's got some work to do. You won't mind me saying that, 3.5 tenths to the pole position time. But as you can see from this shot here, you get a fantastic look of one of the struggles of doing qualifying laps here at Imola. It's finding the space with so many cars out on track. You want that clear track in front of you so you're not getting distracted. Someone kicking up the dust, someone having a bit of a wiggly moment in front of you can really knock your rhythm whilst you're trying to set a quick time.
Yeah, so Charlotte's cheering on Steve Haley, who is on provisional pole, and Yannick Miller, 20. I can't believe I'm saying this. The top four, that is Haley, Miller, Mitchell, and Crossland, covered by 63 thousandths as we go into the last 3 minutes of qualifying. Michael O'Brien coming across the line in the number 25 payment, and there is Pietro Fittipaldi. So he looks to be streaming as well. He's just about to exit the pits. So he's currently 14th out of the 34 drivers that are currently on the circuit at the moment. So Michael O'Brien.
Sorry, Alex, just looking at that graphic in the bottom right corner there, as you saw Pietro head back out on track, the tyres are ice cold, these big blue blotches on your screen. You've got to really spend this first lap, even 2 laps, getting them up to temperature. There you go, you can see there's the speedometer on the right hand side, you can see his gears and the speed he's going, but just to the left of that, those 4 kind of split up shapes are the tyres, and look at them, they're cold. That blue represents they're not quite up to an optimum temperature, and with 2 minutes really to go, give or take, in this session, Pietro's might have to try and set his best time on some tyres that aren't quite optimized for a qualifying lap. So some unique dynamics here and some challenges that he's already having to learn how to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is I could see just by those graphics that what was happening. That's a real... And Luca's 3/10 up, Luca Burke, and he's gone P1, 39 thousandths of a second as Haley improves as well. That is ridiculous. It's a real shame. Denise Pope, who's been through the ringer, the poor lady in the number 79. She's had another disconnect. She had one on Sunday. Denise, we both really feel for you. The whole community feels for you. And so hopefully we'll see you very soon. But one of the biggest developments at the moment, Alex Buncombe, 18th. Sebastian Prio, 23rd. They are finding it very challenging here because the amount of people that are really going for it, as one of the Simsport Racing McLarens has just gone wide, and there is Aaron Walker, and yes, that was Regan Mitchell just behind that went wide there. So Aaron Walker about to cross the line with just under, and the supporters are coming in from Brazil thick and fast. And Aaron Walker goes up into P6 and that was just over a 10th and a half off. So 0.171 separates the top 6. We're in the last 30 or so seconds here in qualifying here at Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari, and they are all coming in. Hashtags coming in properly.
Just as the chat's exploding, the laps on track are really going to start kicking off. This is it. This is do or die. Your season starts here with this qualifying session. Find yourself towards the back of the grid. It's all go from there. You've got to work to gain those places back. You wish you just found those 3/10 in qualifying. Pietro Fittipaldi here, 14th, slap bang in the middle of the grid with time to find to some of the other pros that have joined tonight. But more importantly, how impressive is that? 14th on the grid with some guys who really know ACC inside out, back to front, upside down. Let's see if he can find his way further up the grid. In the top left, you can see he's about 3.5–4 tenths down as he sends it over the curbs. And actually, he's had his lap time invalidated. The time in the top left going red, checkered flags out, lap time's invalidated. That's it for Pietro Fittipaldi.
Okay, Dave Marshall, 10th at the moment. He's 4 tenths quicker so far. The number 33 will come across the line, goes P4, 0.135. So he will start 4th on the grid. Aaron Martin Pilkington, he's 3 tenths up on his best lap time so far. So good evening to Mr. Chris Crossman. Hope you're keeping well, buddy, as well as to Mr. Steve Hinden. So Martin Pilkington in the formidable Ginetta, created by Lawrence Tomlinson and the LNT group, who have a cavalcade of cars in motorsport. And now he's just come through the Variante. I think that was possibly Let's just have a look where he is at the moment. That was through Variante Alta. So 2 more corners to go for him. Adam Isalovic running in the 111. He goes across the line, 23rd position. But Aaron Martin Pilkington, last car to come across the line. And he will be the last one to take the checkered flag. Let's see, does he get into the top 10? The 626 now comes across the line here at Imola. Goes P10, not enough. So Luca Burke, by 39 thousandths of a second from Stephen Haley, takes pole position here at Autodromo Enzo Idino Ferrari here in Imola for the first of 6 rounds for GT4 Season 4. Tim, I mean, you know, you look at all the names. You know, Jensen Button qualified in the top 10, P8. Prio and Buncombe, a lot of work to do. Fittipaldi, Mark Brandenbury's just mentioned, he said, mucked up my final lap, back of the grid for us, Motorsport CST guys. Well, Mark, one bit of advice, keep your nose clean.
Definitely. I mean, you saw that snapshot, that timing screen of the results there. That's what Simsport Racing is all about. You know, you've got some guys here who are professional race drivers who aren't able to beat these guys who are so quick. You know, some of these guys are gamers. They're people like you and me. They're just normal people. There they are, beating Jensen Button by multiple tenths. I mean, what a thing to say. Fantastic result for a lot of these guys. But again, interesting to see the pros who maybe aren't accustomed to this sim getting stuck in and finding themselves in the meaty part of the grid. Obviously, Luca Burke, pole position by 39 thousandths of a second is pretty spectacular. And I mean, look at that grid. 1 second separating the top 16. Luca Burke down to Alex Buncombe. I mean, what a fantastic shot that is.
You know what? If Steve Proudly is grinning like the proverbial Cheshire cat, I will not be at all surprised. So very soon we will be going to the 45-minute race. It is going to be a flat-out sprint, just under 3.5 minutes to go. And one of the big things that we've got here, Tim, we've got dry conditions on our side. Brilliant sunshine here in Imola. For the next half an hour, sunshine. It's going to be an optimum track, 20 degrees air temperature, 28 degrees track temperature. So the drivers are going to really thrive in these conditions. But the minute you start bringing dust up onto the track, it's going to possibly compromise people's vision if they're trying to do overtakes. There could be a lot of possibilities where drivers might be compromised. Then all of a sudden, it might cause a bit of a domino effect.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it seems like now is a perfect time, better than any, to run through a little new segment introducing for the GT4 races this season. I wanted to put my experience for racing in this championship for the last 3 seasons into good use. So I've compiled a few top tips really for this first race at Imola, just to see if I can maybe bring something to you guys that you might not have originally known about, just to give you that insider knowledge, I guess. Imola, obviously a fantastic track, but it does pose its individual challenges. So tip number 1, don't upset the rhythm. I mean, Imola is all about that sweet rhythm that racing drivers crave, whether it's in qualifying as we've just had or in the race. Drivers will need to get into the groove and stay there. And if something knocks you off, like you say, if you have a bit of a run-in with someone, you make a mistake yourself, it's all about getting back on the horse quickly, otherwise you'll lose time. Second point there, the fuel payoff, what I like to call the fuel payoff, really. We've just seen the cars in qualifying. They've been running on fumes. They would have had the tank as empty as possible. And with a lot of drivers now in new cars, maybe they've done race runs before, they'll be tinkering with how much fuel they add to the car, because obviously, as we know, more fuel, more weight, slower lap times. So the real decision is do you play it safe, maybe carry more weight for the 45 minutes and make it to the checkered flag, or do you run the risk of coming up short and maybe have those few extra tenths across the race? And I suppose the final point there, which is probably the most important one and something that's said all the time, is that you can't win the race at turn 1. when the green flag drops, there's 45 minutes. That's plenty of time to get the job done. Find yourself stuck behind someone, there's lots of time left. Even in the last lap, there's still an opportunity to make it happen. And obviously, this is the first race of the season. So getting that first couple of laps under your belt, nice and cleanly, sets you up for a really good result. So, lay that foundation for a fantastic rest of the championship. You can't win the title at Tamburello, but you could certainly, you could be left wishing you had played it safe come the Hungaroring or Snetterton final round of the season when you're counting your chickens at championship end. So, yeah, just some things to consider there as we're watching this race unfold in front of us. Some people with ballast, different fuels, things like that. It's really shaping up to be an exciting start to this season.
Definitely the case. I mean, just from your perspective, obviously with the ballast now coming into play, say for instance, you've got pretty much as much fuel as you're going to dare to put into the car, Tim. But the biggest thing is that when the car starts losing, maybe say a gallon of fuel as we start getting the formation lap underway here at Imola, how much does that help you in terms of lap time? In terms of, does that give you like an extra tenth if you lose a gallon of fuel during a race, or can it depend on the complete setup? Because it's not just the fuel, it's also the ballast as well, isn't it?
Definitely, and you do get to a point in this kind of race format where you're not taking on new tyres. You've got to take that fuel to the end, where you reach a plateau point where, yes, the fuel's coming out, but the tyres maybe have gone, and you become more rubber limited as opposed to petrol limited. But with that ballast on board, you're going to get down to a buffer point where the car will no longer be losing weight at the kind of same rate. These guys are going to be potentially running on fumes and still be 35 kilograms heavier than the car behind them. So there's going to be a really interesting dynamic, particularly in the last 15 minutes when that fuel weight starts burning off, as to who's kind of still got the pace and the momentum to move forward, and who's maybe going to be looking in their mirrors at who's coming up on them.
Right, okay, I've just seen that Pietro Fittipaldi is actually stuck in the pits at the moment on the formation lap, which is not a great sign. But we're going to run through the grid as much as we can. Luca Burke starts from pole position. Alongside him will be Stephen Haley. And it's Yannick Miller and Dave Marshall, row 2. Regan Mitchell, Charlie Crossland, row 3. And it said controls locked until the green flag. So a bit of a problem there for Pietro Fittipaldi. But I'm sure that with his Brazilian spirit and obviously very, very skilled acumen over the past few seasons in single-seaters, I actually had the opportunity of interviewing him when he was with Team WRT at Brands Hatch.
But that issue there looks like he didn't go to the grid. That's a problem you sometimes get if you're not able to grid up quick enough, right, and you get removed to the pit lane. So unfortunately for Pietro, that P16 now means nothing, and he'll find himself at the back, and I think the sim holds you as well for a little bit as the other cars come past. So there's going to be a gap before he even gets onto the back of the field.
Okay. So, Aaron Walker, I can't believe I'm saying this, the Season 1 GT4 champion, lining up alongside Jenson Button of all people. Then it's Aidan Bro and Aaron Martin Pilkington completing the top 10. Lucas Centales alongside Season 3 defending champion Carlos Supervicious. Gerard DeBar and Steve Proudley, row 7. Michael O'Brien will be 15th, which means that Wilkes that's Simon Wilkes will line up alongside. Then we've got Angus Martin, Stain Passport, Sebastian Prio, Zurgas Tovilavicius, Adam Isalovic. Then we've got Sebastian Totolanera, Michael Haffenden, Miles Dixon, Dave Hedges, Niall Schleter, Mark Raddenbury, Ollie Geel, Cameron Fife and Colin Dunn. And then Pietro Fittipaldi will be bringing up the rear as we are about to get things underway here. Season 4 GT4, round 1. Are you ready? Are you steady? Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is time to go. Green. Is it this time, I wonder? We're just waiting. They're keeping us waiting it. So, just wait for it. They're keeping us waiting. This is a rather slow start, but it's green, green, green here at Imola. And they start making their way. Absolutely brilliant flyaway start by Luca Burkers now. Yannick Miller looking up the inside of Stephen Haley going into Tamburello. They're 3 abreast. Looks like one car touched onto the grass, and then there's been an incident, and that has turned multiple cars around. And look at the carambolage it's caused through Tamburello. And some drivers managing to get through. But that was not great at all for quite a few of the competitors. A lot of them will be dropping. Sebastian Priault being one of them. Alex Buncombe also involved in the wars.
Sorry, Alex. It looked like a Janetta off to the left-hand side, scraping along the wall and obviously on the grass. Couldn't get the thing slowed down and just collected the group in front of it. So, like we were saying, you can't win it in turn 1, but you can definitely lose it.
Yeah, very much the case. So things getting rather racy here in the very first lap of Season 4 GT4 here on Simsport Racing, with Alex Goldschmidt and Tim Fullbrook taking you through the action as it happens. We're with Charlie Crossland at the moment, currently trying to chase down Steve Haley in the number 24 McLaren, but Luca Burke leads from Yannick Miller. And also just behind is Dave Marshall. Aaron Walker, the Season 1 champion, is being followed by Jenson Button, who in turn is being followed by Regan Mitchell. Aidan Bro in the 165 Aston Martin rounds out the top 9 ahead of Gerard Debar. Angus Martin, Alex Buncombe and Sebastian Priault look to actually have gotten through all of that. So there was a lot of changing when the times went up and down the order. So Buncombe and Priault 12th and 13th, Wilkes 14th. Stain Passport rounds out the top 15 as they now come out of Livatsa to complete lap 1. Luca Burke definitely coming under close pressure from Yannick Miller this time around. The gap was just over 5.5 tenths. It's going to be less than 2.5. It's 2.38 tenths of a second. Haley a further 8 tenths off of Hope the lead as Burke goes defensive going through Tamburello, as Yannick Miller trying to put it around the outside, trying to go side by side with the Porsche as Jenson Button slides it up the inside calmly and coolly past Aaron Walker in the number 99. So, that was actually Regan Mitchell. So there's been a lot of changes here. Stephen Haley, definitely the McLaren in the middle. That was actually Regan Mitchell that Jenson Button went up the inside of.
So we're looking at this battle at the front here, and Muller got a fantastic run on Burke across the start-finish line. Remember, that Porsche's carrying ballast. The Camaro, it hasn't got anything. It's got 0 kilograms of added weight, so it's really flying in a straight line. He was able to actually close that 2.5 tenths gap and pull up alongside on the run into Tamburello. This top bunch are really going to start getting it together as this race goes on.
Michael O'Brien looks to be actually out of the car already. No laps against him. But Pietro Fittipaldi is out on circuit. He is 38 seconds off of this battle at the front of the field. But you can now see that Luca Burke really hanging on. Steve Haley looking to go up the inside of Yannick Miller. Charlie Crossland, Dave Marshall, Aaron Walker. And then there's a gap of around a second between Walker and Button at the moment. Mitchell in 8th. Aidan Brode closing on the number 69. And he's about just under 7 tenths behind. Good work by Gerard Debar in the number 20 Chevrolet at the moment, the second highest placed Chevrolet out of this field so far. Angus Martin, Simon Wilkes, Alex Buncombe, Sebastian Priault and Stain Passport continue to round out the top 15.
So let's see this again. Let's see if Muller gets this run on Burke for the lead out of Ravazzi. He looked pretty solid, and as you can see already in the toe, he's really catching, and he might look to the inside. He's going on to look to the inside as he crosses the start finish line. He's on the grass, 2 wheels on the left hand side there. He's got it up the inside. Can he get it stopped for Tamburello? And I think he has done. That'll be the race lead if he can hold on to it through these tricky parts of this opening corner. And Burke's gone back up the inside through the final part, and that might open the door for Haley through. They're side by side on the run down to Villeneuve, nearly going 3 wide. Burke in the middle of the road. Muller trying to go around the outside, and he's got the lead back. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, that was great defense. That was great anticipative driving by Luca Burke. As now Charlie Crossland trying to fire it around the outside. That's through Torza on Steve Haley. But Steve Haley, we know how competent and calculating he can be in the McLaren. Manages to get the run on the Mercedes. And as Jorge Villar says, fantastic racing. Yes, Jorge, thank you very much. It's definitely been absolutely stand out. We thought the GT3 race on Sunday night was going to be a cracker. Here we are at Imola. As up the inside tries to go Charlie Crossland. He switches one way, then the other, tries to do the Nigel Mansell dummy.
A bit of a nudge there on the back of Haley. Sorry, he just tapped the rear right of Haley and sent him off slightly to the left-hand side. He managed to gather the McLaren up though, and has fallen back in line. But Crossland, one of those drivers, he doesn't do much talking in the post-race interviews. He definitely does it out on track, and he's proving that point again today. He's really trying to make his way up the field.
Yeah, but just keep your eyes behind Dave Marshall, because Jenson Button is closing at an absolutely humongous rate of knots, followed by Regan Mitchell. And Aidan Bro. So you can just see the gaps between a lot of the drivers. It's really, really heating up. It's getting hot and heated under the collar. And now Luca Burke is actually flying solo ahead of Yannick Miller. Miller was about 5.5 tenths behind him as they go onto the completion of lap number 3 and onto lap number 4. And Muller's got the gap down to less than 3 tenths. Now let's have a look at this replay. This is from earlier on. And I think that is Michael O'Brien on the left-hand on the left-hand side, and he's just got one of the Rocket Esports cars just behind him. So they're going to see. So you can see that there's a bit of a gap there from earlier on. So they're going to now get things going. Just waiting for everything to sort of. You can see that O'Brien gets a really. So just keep an eye. Oh no, O'Brien gets speared into the barriers behind, and just look at the mess in front. It was one of the Ginettas that was turned around, and like literally everyone's trying to scrabble for space. And then O'Brien, I think he was the one that hit the barriers, came into the cars, and that literally he got T-boned as a result of going into the field, but through no fault of his own, because he was collected on the start phase.
I mean, there's nothing you can do on the grass there. I mean, you get biffed off into the barrier, you slam on the brakes knowing that the issue is very much unfolding in front of you, but you're a passenger, and especially at a corner like Tamburello where everyone bunches back up together through the left-hand apex, you're going to find yourself firing into the side of cars, unfortunately.
So 38 minutes still to go here at round 1 as Aaron Martin Pilkington closing on Adam Isalovic in the 111. So it's going to be. There are battles, as we all know, here at Simsport Racing. If you want to get involved, head to simsport-racing.com to join our Discord server. Over 650 community members and climbing. But still, the battle for the lead very much intensified. Muller trying to get a good run on Luca Burke as they now come across the line. It's 2 tenths, and you can just see how close that Camaro is. Absolutely in the slipstream, going towards the outside of Luca Burke. This time switching to the right-hand side through Tamburello.
He's got it
Muller's
done.
going round the outside, and he gets the tangle with Burke. That's going to allow Haley to go up there like a rat up a drain pipe, and he's trying to go round the outside through the second part of Tamburello, and Haley's got the lead. Brilliant stuff from Steve Haley. Well anticipated.
He doesn't back out either. You know, it's difficult when you see cars getting together in front of you. It's very easy to hop on the brake, hop off the gas, you know, to make a steering input and find yourself in a more tricky situation. But Haley kept it planted. He saw the opportunity, and now he's leading the race. But Burke managed to get it gathered back up, and Moller's not too far behind. You know, we could see him move back through the pack. But I mean, look at that shot there on the run up into Piratello. There's about 10 cars now fighting for the lead. This is fantastic stuff.
And you've been in that kind of train before as well.
Yes.
So from your perspective, to see it from the other side of the fence is quite a different feeling altogether, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, I was certainly, I'd say I was more scared in that situation than I am at the moment. It's quite nice to be able to watch it unfold and know that I haven't got a championship on the line, but at the same time, it's pretty fantastic. And you can see Jenson Button still hanging on in there. He's looking pretty feisty in the middle of the pack. I mean, it's a snake winding its way around Imola. These GT4 cars are stuck together.
And we're on board with the number 22, Rocket Esports Cayman. And he's trying to close down on Regan Mitchell. The gap between them around about 6 tenths of a second as they go through into Rivazza. Good tight apex there from Button. Now through into the next left-hander. Let's see if he gets a good run on the number 69 McLaren as they come out of the final corner and head their way across to the line. That's complete the first 10 minutes out of 45 here on the first out of 6 rounds for GT4 Season 4. Is Charlie Crossan trying to close up on Luca Burke. That Mercedes has absolutely got really good pace in the slipstream, but he manages to decide to use discretion as the better part of valour, as did Dave Marshall. on Aaron Walker. That's a battle for P4, and who they've got behind is the Apex Motorsport driver in the form of Yannick Miller in the 143. Then it's Regan Mitchell, Jenson Button, Aidan Bro, actually hanging with the 2009 Formula 1 and 2018 Autobac Super GT GT500 champion as Dave Marshall slings it up the inside of Aaron Walker there, but Walker keeps it planted around the outside in the 99 McLaren, and that gives a bit of daylight for Yannick Miller to pull alongside the number 33 Porsche as they go up the hill into the next left-hander. Yannick Miller late on the brakes, touches the curb a bit, nearly unsettles the back end of the Camaro, and that allows Regan Mitchell to try and close up well and truly going through Acqua Minerale.
Yeah, it's such a technical sequence of corners here, and although the door can open for you, it's really single file through a couple of those corners, but I wouldn't doubt any of these guys trying to make it 2 or even 3 wide at some points. But Charlie Crossland really looking like the man in the hot seat. We've got Burke who will be doing his best to get back onto the rhythm after that, coming together with Yannick Miller at Tamburello. As we see, we've got a quite the kerfuffle going on here. It's our reigning champion, Super Vicious, is coming up against Steve Proudly, who's finding himself in the thick of the action in his return to racing.
Yeah, they've also got Tovila Vicious. So Tovila Vicious is now in the middle of that battle. So Super Vicious running with the number 1 on his BMW M4 GT4. Rounds out the top 16 positions as they now head down the hill. There's some really good battling.
What's fantastic here in Simsport is it doesn't matter if you're battling first or 21st, there's always action to be had. And if we look at the timing screen, although that the top 10 really have kind of gapped the field, as we see, I think that's Haley coming under pressure from David Marshall behind.
No, that's Regan Mitchell. That's Regan Mitchell, and David Marshall got the switchback done on him, but Marshall got back on him. Here comes Jenson Button up the inside. He's going to try and force the issue going into the chicane, the Villeneuve chicane here. But he has to think better of it as they'll now go into the left-hander of Thorza. A really good track here. But now Aidan Bro fancies his chances. Looks towards the outside of the number 22. And there is Gerard de Bar in the Dutch. Well, he's got the orange, but then also the Dutch national colours as well. He is one of our resident Dutchmen, along with the likes of Mark Neutelings. So the Camaro pulling alongside the Aston Martin into the next left-hander. Thinks better of it. And decides to hold back, but then Jenson Button gets a really good run on Regan Mitchell going into Acqua Minerale.
Yeah, this top 10, like I was saying, really now it's getting quite heated. We've only had 13 minutes of racing, and these guys are really starting to sling it at each other. But some slight gaps forming. There's a bit of a gap between Burke and Crossland now, nearly 2 seconds. So the pack is starting to splinter as some of these moves are made, and you cost yourself time when you go for a move, and you cost the other person time. So when you do that, the group can kind of split up quite quickly. So as we see, Aidan Bro still coming under attack from Debar behind, but this top 10 are all stuck together. They're just behind. There's a group of Wilkes, who I think has just made the move of Angus Martin in the last lap, and then Sebastian Prio in 13th is trying to close up that gap on the 2 Chevys in front. So it's all change here around the top 10 mark.
Yeah, so it looks like Alex Bunkum's car is actually in the pits. I think I just saw quickly. Pietro Fittipaldi now up to 29th position, but great going by Cameron Fife. A big thank you to his granddad Andrew for pointing it out. He's up from 34th to 22nd and climbing, and he's putting in the 152s at the moment. So there is the 113 BMW M4 GT4. So Cameron finding that new sim definitely getting him a lot better behind the wheel, and obviously making it a little bit easier as we go on board with Aidan Bro in the 165 Gottlieb Motorsport Aston Martin GT4, and Gerard
there's a car around. There's a car around. I think that might have been Muller around at the at Tozer. We'll see if that changes. But there was a Camaro off to the inside. You can just see in the background of the stop.
That might have been Angus Martin. That might have been Angus Martin possibly. It was Wilkes. Wilkes, the number 12, that could have been him. So there were 2 Chevys behind. It was Wilkes.
On the timing screen, there goes Muller. Muller's plummeting down the timing screen. So the Chevrolet that once led this race and was batting at the front is dropping down the timing screens. So Muller involved in some sort of incident at Tozer, and that's not how you want your race to go with half an hour left on the times. And Regan Mitchell.
Ricard Mitchell into the barriers there whilst battling away with Jenson Button. Yeah, because I've just noticed that on the timing screens, the Yannick Miller was just behind Aaron Walker, so I'm wondering if there may have been a possible incident between them. But now the battle between Bro and DeBar is now for 8th place, as Jenson Button has now been able to... he's been gifted 2 positions as a result of those squabbling in front. So Dave Marshall has 2.2 seconds to find on Aaron Walker in the battle for 4th place. But Aidan Bro really not succumbing to the pressure from Gerard DeBar.
Yeah, and look at this, Gerard DeBar in one of these Camaros. We've seen the straight line speed of this car, and he's looking for a move. And he's really, ducking in and out of the toe to try and find the space. Bro leaving him a lane and then closing it on the entry to Tamburello. I mean, it's turning into an episode of the Hunger Games, this top 10 battle. They're slowly picking each other off one by one. We're kind of whittling our way down to a smaller pack, as you can see gaps starting to form between Walker and Marshall there, 4th and 5th.
Ricard Mitchell, if you start mentioning Hunger Games to somebody at the moment, they might want to have pizza. That's rather topical for where we are at this evening. But yes, Stephen Haley is in 2nd position. Charlie Crossan rounds out the top 3. After on lap number 9, we've still got Luca Burke in the 87. He is still leading, and he's still hanging on. And despite the fact that the Porsche 718 Cayman has got the maximum amount of ballast at the moment, that has really not helped Burke. But then when you think about it, Dave Marshall, I know him from his VRRC days. When I saw him win 2 Touring Car E-Series championships, and the majority of the time he was on ballast. So it's a bit different when you go from Assetto Corsa to Assetto Corsa Competizione. However, Dave Marshall put it on P4. He's P5 at the moment. We go with Aidan Bro, who is now just under half a second off of Jenson Button in the number 22 Porsche. Just ahead of them is Dave Marshall. And then this is going to be an interesting 4-way scrap, I think, for 5th place, as we've got just over 28 minutes on the clock remaining until the checkered flag.
Yeah, exactly. And like you were saying about the Porsche with its ballast, really we're seeing why that's introduced. It's potentially capping Burke's pace at the moment. He might be able to extend that gap over Haley, and he has done actually, as I say that in that last sector. He's pushed the gap out to nearly 9/10 of a second. But we might see that ballast come into play towards the end of the race should the tyres start wearing a bit more on Burke's car, where he's got to carry that extra weight. It has an effect on these highly simulated tyres in ACC. These things do behave as close to the real world as you can get in simulation, so it's fantastic to see these drivers really trying to make use of the rubber underneath them, as Stein Passport now looking for a move on Seb Brio, and I'm sure he'll be smiling away in the virtual cockpit battling the son of a World Touring Car champion.
A 3-time World Touring Car champion thereof, and also a 1-time European Touring Car champion before he got his 3 titles with Bert Mampai and the team at RBM. Also, good to see Steve Proudly. He's in 16th position at the moment, and there is Stein Passport sticking with the Ginetta in the 444. And Sebastian Brio, I'm sure. Well, the thing is that the person that will be at his immediate right-hand side will be his dad, Andy. Hope you're keeping well, Mr. Brio Senior, and looking after, and hope everyone else at the family is doing good as well, including Joe and Danielle. So this is where it's going to get rather interesting, and I'm sure that a lot of people, when they heard the news about this, especially the Simsport Racing community, that everyone went really well. A shame for Kieran Vidago. He's had an issue. He had a restart right at the end of quali. That's a real shame, Kieran. We know you're rapid, and it would have been so good to see you battling up there. As Miles Dixon now trying to get past the defending champion Karolis Sipavicius, and you can see Miles Dixon normally he will run with Pulse Simsport as more Brazilian Portuguese comments come in. And I don't know any Brazilian Portuguese anyway. So apart from Vai Galera, if they're cheering him on,
so I was going to say, as we ride on board with Pietro Fittipaldi here, battling in 24th place, he is actually making his way up the field. That drama at turn 1, lap 1 would have probably helped him out in closing the gap. But we can see really actually my 2 ex-teammates, Angus Martin and Michael Hafferton, really proving a point that I was making before the race about you can't win, but you can lose it on T1. Angus Martin, having a clean first lap, is now just outside, well, he's in the top 10 actually, and looking to close the gap to Simon Wilkes. And Michael Hafferton, is languishing down actually 2.6 seconds off the back of Pietro Fittipaldi. It's looked like he's going to get the run on done in front here.
Well, your ex-teammate Haffenden's just set the fastest sector in Sector 1 at 24.2.
It's nice to see he's trying. It's nice to see that he's finally decided to give it a go.
Yeah, and that was 1.1 seconds ahead, quicker than Pietro Fittipaldi as he tries to go side by side with Colin Dunn into the next corner. Fittipaldi up the inside in the number 51 and makes the move up into P23. So a good job by Pietro there. Stein Passport still closing up on Sebastian Priaulx as we've got Yannick Miller trying to get into this three-way scrap of Passport, looking up the inside of Priaulx. Gets a bit too much curb there, allows Priaulx to get the inside line through into the next corner, and that was a great comeback from Sebastian Priaulx on, and that was through the Variante Alta, as now Muller is just waiting. He's got the ringside seat, waiting for what Passport and Priaulx do next. And Passport tried to look up the inside through the first part of Rivazza, but Priaulx was absolutely having none of it.
Yeah, and Yannick Miller, obviously, he's going to be frustrated. He was in that lead battle, and now here he is on the outside of the top 10. He's going to hopefully try and get a run with the Camaro straight line speed we've seen. Don't know if he's carrying any damage from the little biff earlier, but here we go. He's going to look to the outside of Stein Passport into Tamburello, and they could nearly go three wide with Passport going late on the brakes. He's going to send up the inside of Priaulx. Contact, and they're round. Oh dear, two cars off, and Muller gets the two places, but Passport really sending that one in late. I don't think he was going to get that one stopped, and it looked like there was always going to be an incident on the way.
Yeah, that was very reminiscent of Martin Pilkington and Haley's clash going through Dingle Dell at Brands Hatch on Sunday night in the season opener of GT3. Don't forget, we will be back with GT3 action on the 24th of January at Kyalami for a 90-minute race with one mandatory pit stop, where Steve Proudy will be back with me on commentary duty. So Gerard de Bar still chasing down Aidan Bro. They are less than 0.2 of a second apart. Steve Haley now coming under fire from Charlie Crossland in the number 66 Team Fordzilla Mercedes AMG GT4. And look at the run that Crossland's got at the moment. And these two have been into battle before. And Crossland really getting a good run on that McLaren. And the biggest thing is that the Mercedes here, Tim, is running with 20 kilos of ballast, but it's still handling pretty well in comparison with that McLaren.
Yeah, it looks like Crossland is really trying to set up a move here on Haley, but Haley's not being rattled. He doesn't look too put off by that Team Fordzilla Mercedes in his rear mirror. I mean, Crossland always finds himself in these situations. We've seen it in previous seasons with GT4 and also in GT3. He's in this top three, and the next step is making those decisive moves that will put him in the hot seat for the victory come with the checkered flag. But with 22.5 minutes to go, it's we're in a little bit of a lull period here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see things spice up before the checkered flag.
Oh, it's good mates now about to go into battle, because drifter Dave Hedges trying to close up on Steve Proudly, and that is the battle for P15. So Steve Proudly's done a really good job so far, and he's got Dixon just up ahead of him. So I think I did have a quick chat with Dave before we went live. I think we both did, if memory serves me correctly. It's going really, really well but look at Cameron Fife, 16 places gained. He's up into P18, and he's trying to close on Sebastian Totolanera, who was actually behind this trio of drivers. There's Cameron Fife, and he's got Aaron Martin Pilkington closing him down in the 626 Ginetta. So really, really good racing up and down the order here, as is customary, as Tim will very, very much vouch for me here on Simsport Racing, simsport-racing.com. You can head to our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages. If you're watching on the official Simsport Racing YouTube channel, why not hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and whilst you're at it, give this video a like. It all helps out the community in the greater schemes of things. 666, that's Mark Neuterling's race number, if memory serves me correctly so far. But Steve Proudly really doing a great job keeping Dave Hedges at bay at the moment.
This is an important battle, to someone who maybe is new to the Simsport GT4, look at a battle for 15th, and it might not look that exciting, but reverse grid next time out, P15 gets the pole. So this battle is really crucial for the next race. It looks like you're either going to be on pole position or you're going to be in 16th. A difference of 15 places, so an important battle between the returning Proudly and Dave Hedges, who I'm sure will be both be very happy to be going wheel to wheel here at Imola.
Yeah, well, there's going to be bragging rights. So I think there was a little bit of contact there, so a little bit of side by side there. So someone did run wide, if memory serves me correctly. But and it was Charlie Crossland, so he was battling away with Steve Haley, and that's we've got another hashtag, and that was definitely Sideways Steve, because he was a bit sideways earlier on.
Yes,
earlier on. So we got Drifter Dave and Sideways Steve, but Steve Haley is not letting that McLaren get sideways in any way, shape or form, but he's keeping Charlie Crossland at bay. But the Mercedes again looks to be closing.
Definitely, and just as much as Crossland's really keeping onto the back of Haley in front, Burke's just able now to edge this gap out in front, 1.8 seconds as we cut back to Aidan Bro in the Aston Martin, really sending it over the curbs, as is Gerard de Bar behind. They're both battling, but both want to beat the man in front of them, Jenson Button, who's down now in 6th place. So he has gone forward on the grid. This is the maybe the experience of a Formula One world champion, keeping cool, taking opportunities when they present themselves. But it's not going to be an easy run-in with 19 minutes to go. Aidan Bro and Gerard de Bar definitely going to be looking at making a move on Button.
Well, I'm looking at some statistics reference esports racing. Now, for a lot of people that did watch the Race All-Star Series powered by Rocket Phones, on the Legends Trophy Season 2, he actually placed first. And he's got 3 wins in esports at the moment, 10 podium finishes, 5 pole positions, and 6 fastest laps out of 23 races. So you can tell a lot by not just the amount of races that Jenson's done. I mean, even before Formula One, he won in 1998. He was the champion in Formula Ford Great Britain, and also won the Formula Ford Festival that year. And that season, he also competed and finished vice champion in the European Formula Ford Championship. And when you think about it, races entered, it says 372 in total. This is according to driverdatabase.com. 28 wins, 81 podiums, 23 pole positions. There's a lot of experience with Jenson, and when you think about it, when Fernando Alonso went over to the Indianapolis 500, the only person they could actually bring in was the man that we're on board with at the moment, Jenson Button. And I still remember the seats joke as Jenson exited the pit lane.
Definitely, and I mean, I think the word you might apply to Jenson Button definitely in these later stages of his career is adaptability. These cars might not be real, but the racing definitely is, and Jenson Button will be wanting to adapt to the race car he's found in front of him. Obviously he had a slightly disappointing end to his career at McLaren, where a struggling Honda engine powered car, but he went and did Le Mans with SMP Racing in a Dallara. He's done Super GT. He's adapting to these different cars, and really the GT4 Porsche Cayman that he's in at the moment is just another car. It's just another challenge to overcome, as we see Crossland now on the back of Haley for this 2nd place.
It looks like Haley's pulling away ever so slightly. Well, it was just under 6 tenths. It's now just over 4 tenths in the battle for 2nd position. Gerard de Bar still... I think it's a good drive here, if I'm honest with you. Gerard de Bar, we don't normally... When I first saw him, it was in Season 3 GT3, and he was running in the Audi R8 LMS. But now, as these drivers have gotten better and better, they've honed their craft. These drivers here at Simsport Racing, as part of the community, they are constantly on the sims. Any spare moment they get, as we now see Pietro Fittipaldi just about to try and get his way past into 21st position. He's closed on the number 5 of Torvila Vicious. We now go back on board with the Brazilian, and he's now, you can now see the inputs from Pietro. You can just see the amount of concentration and how much adrenaline is flowing through those veins, and you can see that there's intensity. You can see just how hard he's pushing, dropping down the gears into 3rd from 4th through into Tamburello, and it really gives you a good insight into overcorrection there as well. He's just having to consistently correct, because let's not forget, Tim, these GT4 cars are production based.
Definitely, and there is a lot of movement in them. find yourself turning into a corner going, oh yeah, this is going great, and then halfway around the apex you find yourself all over the shop. And here Pietro looking up the inside into Tozer there, he really went for that one, and slight contact I would say on the left rear of Tovalicius in front. They're side by side up the hill into Piratella. Can he get the move done? And he just about manages to, and that might open the door for Niall Schlitter behind.
Yeah, Niall Schlitter, we've seen him previously, and he's going up into Aqua Minerale, but then Tovalavicius runs a little bit wide, going through into the second part of this as they go up the hill in towards Variante Alta. But that was great craftsmanship, as we know. Steve Haley has now had a drive-through penalty. Now I'm wondering whether that might have been for track limits, because the driver's going to have to watch that. So definitely. Haley now in the pits, and he was P2. So that has changed everything. Charlie Crossland is now 2.814 seconds behind Luca Burke. So that has changed everything, which means that Jenson Button now completes the top 5, and Aidan Bro and Gerard de Bar now trying to really hustle the number 22 Rocket Esports driver.
Well, like you were saying, Gerard de Bar is a much improved driver, transferring from the GT3s. I believe his first season, the GT4s, was last season. And my experience last time out when I raced, I was always being hounded by this orange BMW. And if I wasn't being hounded, I was normally watching it shoot off into the distance. But this time, in that bright orange Camaro, he's definitely still managing to do the works. And he's come up the grid, like you were saying. He's really pushed forward in this race, made those moves when they needed to, and now he's up to 7th, looking like he could, if drama kicks off at any point, benefit from it and find himself in the top 5.
Yeah, well, I think at the end of the day, it's actually been quite a really good battle between Jenson Button, Aidan Bro and Gerard de Bar, and I'm sure that the latter two, if they said, well, we wouldn't expect as that was going to be the case, that you were going to say that, Alex, but as we now see Yannick Miller go side by side with Angus Martin, this is the battle for P9, but Martin keeps the 863 HF Impala Chevy ahead at the minute, the gap just under 2/10 between the pair, but Yannick Miller has been, I think he has actually set the fastest lap of the race, as Button, Bro and de Bar come out of the final part of Rivazza. Now they're going to come across the line.
Yeah, definitely. I saw Moller light up the timing screens. He went the fastest a couple of laps ago, so he's still, there's plenty of time to make a move, and he's doing his best to do that.
Okay, we're going back to a replay. Now this is where Muller, I apparently think, did have this is the incident, as he gets a pump from behind and gets spun around by Dave Marshall and clobbers into the barriers. So Muller's had to reverse it back onto the circuit. Oh, that was close, and that might be classed as an unsafe rejoin. The back end hits the barriers as he reverses it back, spulls up the rear wheels and gets back going again. And that was behind, he rejoined behind Sebastian Priaulx and Stein Passpont.
That's really difficult for him. I think actually coming through the corner, he was backed up by the car in front and had to drop the anchor a bit. And in doing that, that's really caught out. I think it was Marshall behind him who gave him a tap. So difficult situation. You get these corners like the Tozer hairpin where the cars will bunch, and the accordion effect that so many people talk about really taking place there. Unfortunate for Moller, but I think, yes, like you say, a bit of a questionable rejoin that I'm sure the stewards will be looking after post-race.
Yeah, so just over 12 minutes to go left on the timer here at Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari here in Imola, as Bro loses a bit of momentum to Jenson Button, who actually absolutely nailed the Variante Alta there quite considerably. So the gap between him and Aidan Bro now about 0.8 of a second. And Adam Isalovic, he said I got hit, spun into 24th, then got hit, and then got a drive through for last place. Sadly, no chance of racing, so I retired. He says that Imola is still my nemesis. So we've also had handling issues for Storment and had too much damage. So a real shame. We're down to 28 competitors, and the last one of which is Ollie Geel, I believe, in 28th position. But Steve Proudly, I don't think he's wanting to worry about that top 15 reverse grid pole, because in that position at the moment is Dave Hedges, now coming under fire from Steve Haley. So It's getting
So
rather interesting indeed, isn't it?
yeah, it's definitely heating up as now Haley looking to the inside of Hedges, and I think he's going to make the move stick into Tamburello. Fantastic late braking move there, and now Haley's in the hot seat for this reverse grid pole, but it looks like Hedges is going to get the run back on him on the exit, the left-hander there on the run down to the Villeneuve chicane. Looks like they've formed an orderly line through there, but like you were saying, there's still plenty of time for something to happen. And at the top of the field, Luca Berg and Charlie Crossland are exchanging lap times. The gap really isn't coming down between those two, as we see Mark Raddenbury trying to get a run on Zentalis in front, and it looks like he's going to go to the outside into Tamburello. We've seen some people pull this off. Can Mark get it done on the brakes? They drop through into the left-hander, and he's still there, still holding the line, but Zentalis just manages to keep the position.
Yeah, sorry, Ollie, I didn't know what your YouTube username, Ollie Gill. He has pulled it into the pits, as has Regan Mitchell. So a lot of damage for both drivers. So we're down to 27, last of which is the number 750 on your screen, Mark Raddenbury. And a big thank you to him for sorting out some well-branded Positive Perception face masks. A big thank you to him. So you can head to Positive Perception. You can find it on Facebook. You can find it online as well. Some really good. They do a lot of accessories, including towels, also mats for your sim rigs, as well as we've got Stain Passpont trying to close on Cameron 5. This is the battle for 19th position, as we have just over 9 minutes remaining on the clock. And in the meantime, Aaron Walker, the Season 1 champion in the 99 McLaren 570 SGT4, has gone purple in Sector 1 of 23.5 from Walker there, as we are on lap number 20. Now, Tim, because obviously we've got about just under 9 minutes to go. What have we got? Probably about 25, 26 laps in total here at Imola?
Yeah, definitely. We're looking really about another 5 or 6 laps tops, and I suppose now you're really starting to count your chickens and maybe decide if you got too little or too many. You might be trying to close the gap on the car in front and throwing everything at it, or you might be thinking, I'm going to hold stations here, I'm in a good spot. Someone like Hedges, who's just dropped off the back of Haley, he's going to be thinking, right, now do I really need to push on for this 15th, which, as we know, is the reverse grid pole, or do I just take the points and think about a championship? As Steen Passpont looking up the inside of Cameron Fife and getting the move done through Tozer.
Okay, excuse me. Keep your eyes on the two leaders. Gap now between Luca Burke and Charlie Crossland is around 1.8 seconds. They're about to cross the line, so that's going to get rather interesting for the lead, as they'll go on to lap number 21 with 7 minutes and 53 seconds still remaining on the clock. As Steen Passpont really trying to hold Cameron Fife at bay for what is 19th position, and just behind them, look, in the distance, in the shadows, has anyone got the Jaws music? Because Pietro Fittipaldi is chasing them down, and he's only a second away from Cameron Fife at the minute. There's all a bit of a run over the curbs there through the chicane by Cameron Fife, and that has allowed Fittipaldi, that's going to be through the Variante Alta and on the way to Rivazza, that Fittipaldi could have a sniff at least 19th position by the end of the race.
Yeah, and he would have nearly made his way halfway up the field, which is impressive considering he started from pit lane. But this is going to be a really good test of Fife, who, like you said, he's got this new sim, he's starting to feel more comfortable, more at home in the GT4 BMW. But can he keep Fittipaldi at bay? What a fantastic thing to tick off at the start of your Season 4 GT4, is to say, I kept a Fittipaldi at bay round Imola. It's not something everyone can say they've done.
Yeah, that's very, very true. But the thing is that at least they can say, well, if Pietro does get past, I go, well, I raced Pietro Fittipaldi. And they're like, what? Pietro Fittipaldi? Yes, the one and the same. As now Cameron Fife looking towards the inside of Steen Passpont, as we're on board the front splitter cam with Pietro Fittipaldi in the 51. And look at the run. Cameron Fife runs wide. Fittipaldi going through into the next corner, looking towards the outside. And now they're going to go up the hill. So that's a really good run there. Look, that's coming out of Torza. They're going to go up to Pirotala, and then Fittipaldi is going to have a good run on Cameron Fife, and Fife is going to be feverishly looking in his mirrors. And whilst that's happening, Stain Passpont is going to get away. And now they go down the dip, and now we go back on board. We actually go to Pietro's Twitch stream at the minute. You can just see good braking there from Cameron Fyfe and from Pietro Fittipaldi up through the second part of Acqua Minerale. Now they've got the run down to the Variante Alta, and the gap between the pair of them at the moment isn't as much as a second. It's more like us. Look, absolutely nailed that one, did Pietro. Just waited for Fyfe to make an unforced error, as we've now got a penalty, drive-through penalty for Miles Dixon in the 94. So, and has instantly taken that penalty straight away. Has served it. So we just got over 5 minutes to go. It's really funny how that not that long ago we went green, 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 and we're nearly at the end of the race, and here we are with Aidan Bro closing in once again on Jenson Button. Yeah, sometimes these races can absolutely fly by, but trust me, if you're out there having a tough time and you just can't make the move on someone, or you're down in the outside the top 20, it's going to feel like it's taken forever to get to the final lap. But Aidan Bro has not let Button get away. If anything, the two of them have slightly gapped Gerard de Bar. We don't know if he's made a mistake or maybe just dropped off in pace in this final few minutes, but Aidan Bro's really going to be looking to try and make a move on the run out of Acqua Minerale there, as close as they've ever been. Yeah, Steve Hindon from Esports Designs asked what's happened to Super Regan, aka Regan Mitchell. Well, Stevie, there was a bit of a battle, and he ended up in the barriers, and there was quite a bit of damage to the 570S, so he called it a day. There is Lucas Sentalis, that BMW M4 GT4, looking a bit too battle scarred, I think, for the 102's liking, as now Mark Granbury he's just behind. That's Colin Dunn in the 25 that's just ahead of him. So Mark Granbury looking a little bit closer towards that would be a top 25 finish, as we've got 4 minutes on the clock. Luca Burke now has a 2-second advantage. It was running between 1.8 and 2 seconds between him and Team Forzilla's Charlie Crossland. Aaron Walker rounds out the top three. Dave Marshall is about nearly 2.5 seconds ahead of this battle. This is the two-way scrap. As Button makes a mistake, and Bro up the inside. Well, I think it was just the fact that Aidan Bro was just trying to sort of wait and bide his time, and then it was just an unforced error from Jenson Button there. Sometimes that's all you need to do. You don't need to make the spectacular lunge up the inside late on the brakes, or some kind of cut back, something fancy. Sometimes all it takes is just being a presence, and you can force someone into an error, like you said. And actually it looked like Button was the one who made the mistake that time. Who would have thought we'd be saying that at Imola, at track that Button has gone so well at in the past? I'm sure that's going to be on Aidan Bro's Twitter feed a little bit later on tonight. I know what he's like. The man that did 5 overtakes at the Kobayashi hairpin at Suzuka last season in GT4. But Mark Granbury looking to close on Dunn in the number 19. Now, these two were teammates in Season 3. Now they're battling between each other. Granbury in the running in the Ginetta, and Dunn running in the Aston Martin. So the Ginetta has a slight advantage in terms of the weight ballast, as we're in the last 2.5 minutes, and it looks like the leaders are very shortly going to be going on to the penultimate lap of this race. They're running in the 1:50 50s. So leaders are across the line. Gap now down between Burke and Crossland to just over 1.8 seconds ahead of Walker. And then it is Marshall, Bro, Button, DeBar, Wilkes, Muller, Sipavicius, Brio, Martin, Haley, Crowley in 14th, Hedges staying in 15th. So Dave Hedges, I think, is deciding I'm going to hold station, as Mark Granbury still keeping an eye on what Colin Dunn is doing as they go down through the dip into Acqua Minerale for what will be their penultimate, might not be their penultimate time, but they'll have probably another lap or two after this one, as the two leaders now will make their way through Acqua Minerale as Granbury slings it up the inside of Dunn into the Variante Alta. And there is Sebastian Totolanera coming under fire from Stein Pasbond. In the meantime, that's for 17th. That's for 17th and 18th position. And that's looking rather interesting indeed between those two. So just over 60 seconds, but what a race so far it's been, and what a season opener here, Tim.
It's been absolutely fantastic, and I suppose now we might see a couple of changes. There's still time for positions to be lost and gained, as drivers might be looking at a flashing red light on their dash that's telling them they're about to run out of fuel, or maybe actually they're finding someone, they're reeling someone in a lot quicker than they have done for the rest of the race because someone's having to do a bit of lift and coast here and there. Not something you'll find towards the front of the grid where people will have perfectly calculated their fuel measurements, but as we come on to what could be the final lap, Sebastian Priaulx, I've just seen on the left hand side, has got a drive through, so that could be another track limits infringement for the young Guernseyman, pushing him down the order. So yeah, plenty still to happen, I'd say, even though the clock only shows 12 seconds to go.
Yep, Aaron Martin Pilkington trying to go side by side with Sebastian de Tolonera as they go through the into Rivazza. And the McLaren stays ahead of the Ginetta. Meanwhile, the leaders are going through Tosa. Nice move by Aaron Martin Pilkington up the inside of De Tolonera through the first and second part of Rivazza. As there is Luca Burke. He's now making his way through. And that will be into Piratella, a corner that we haven't really mentioned that much throughout this 45-minute race. The clock has struck 0. And you can see in the distance from Luca Burke, he has got Charlie Crossland not that far behind, but Crossland, as much as he has tried throughout this 45-minute race, has not been able to capitalise and get on the same pace, even though they have been running in the 150s, 50.7s and 8s over there. And Luca Burke has just got the double left at Rivazza to negotiate as he goes under the bridge following the exit from Variante Alta, deep onto the brakes, turning and rotating that Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport through, and out of the final corner comes Luca Burke in the Zancho Simsport Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport, and he will take the opening victory here in Season 4 of GT4, led from lights out pretty much to checkered flag. Charlie Crossland helps himself no end in second position. The Season 1 champion, Aaron Walker, rounds out the top 3 places. Dave Marshall, great effort from him, finishing in 4th place. 5th will be for Aidan Bro. Jenson Button finishes in 6th place ahead of Gerard Debar. Simon Wilkes will take 8th place at the flag ahead of Yannick Miller. Karoris Sipersvicius, the defending champion, takes 10th place. Sebastian Priaulx, if he hasn't served that drive-through penalty, will drop down the order like a proverbial stone, which could mean that Angus Martin may take 11th position. That should automatically, I think, change 30-second additional time penalty for Sebastian Priaulx. So Angus Martin will take 11th. Steve Haley will take 12th. Steve Proudly will take 13th on his return to action following the Laguna Seca finale a couple of seasons ago. Pietro Fittipaldi will come across the line in 18th, but that will more than likely change because, look, he will be 17th because Priaulx's got a 30-second time penalty, and that will drop him out of the top 20. Well done to Cameron Fife, finishing in what is effectively 20th position at the moment, but that will more than likely change. Michael Haffenden brings the Chevrolet Camaro across the line, battle-scarred like anything at the front, as the virtual green smoke from the flares by the virtual Tifosi come in from the grandstands. But what, and I've had a really good comment here. A couple of good comments. Felipe Santos says Pietro finished in 18th. Well, that's going to be 17th, but was a podium in our hearts. That's exactly the kind of motorsport fans we like to hear from. Jorge Vila says P18 starting from the pits. I think it's quite impressive for someone like Pietro, who's very new to the game. I'd very much agree with that, Tim.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, like we were mentioning, that adaptability that these guys have to be able to hop into a game, go against, well, sim, I'd say. It's not really a game, it's a simulator, go against some guys who have really spent the hours honing setups, getting quicker lap by lap. to come into what is a different challenge, something new, and to find yourself at the back of the grid with a gap as well, and battle your way through, really a fantastic showing from Pietro Fittipaldi. I'd just like to point out, actually, I've just noticed on the timing screens that Crossland set the fastest lap of the race on that last lap, so there's nothing to say he wasn't trying to close that gap down to Luca Burke. But well, I mean, a fantastic way to start the season, and what a fantastic occasion to be in the comms box with you, Alex. This has been brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Good to hear from our good friend Richard Pixley, one of the usual, normally from the Lost Jaguar crew. Great to see from this aspect. Well, I think without further ado, Tim, let's head down to the interview booth and speak to some drivers for the first time in Season 4.
Sure thing.
Okay, well, we're down in the interview box at the moment, and first things first, I'm going to speak to our Season 1 champion. Well done, Aaron Walker, despite what was a very, very difficult race for everyone here at Imola, P3 on the first round of the season. You must be pretty happy with that, mate.
Thank you, Alex. You're over the moon. A bit gutted I sort of got the podium because Steve got a drive through, but I was kind of hoping that Charlie would get the drive through, but it didn't happen. Bless him. It was a good race, very good race.
Yeah.
I had quite a few track cuts in the first half of the race, had to be quite careful in the second half. It was really just about bringing it home.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing with regards to the first race of the season. From having won the championship in Season 1, and then obviously our good friend Steve Haley picked you to the post on Season 2, and then Carolus made it 3 for 3 out of the first 3 seasons. But it's always been ultra competitive when we at Simsport Racing brought in GT4, and that's really added a nice new dynamic to the community, hasn't it?
Yeah, GT4 has been fantastic from the get-go. It's been competitive, very, very close racing. Obviously, we're attracting faster and faster drivers now, so it's getting more and more difficult. I don't expect to win any more championships, not with people like Dave and Luca and Charlie around, but it's very good, very enjoyable.
Well done tonight. Congratulations, Aaron, and we'll see you in a week's time at Zolder.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, next up, I'm going to head to a very well-known person now in these parts. Third place in Season 3, but switching to the Aston Martin. I never thought I'd be saying this, Aidan Bro, to say the words that Bro's gone up the inside of Button on the commentary. That must be that was pretty good pressure. That you didn't put him under too much pressure, but you waited for that unforced error, Aidan. You got straight past him.
Yeah, I have to say, what an absolutely amazing race. I want to first just thank Steve Proudly for allowing me to race, to be honest, because I completely missed the sign-up period for this championship, but luckily he let me in for tonight's and the rest of the season as well. And what a race. I can't say as I've ever pushed as hard in my life, but also not to be that guy that takes Jenson Button out of the race. So I didn't really, want to get too close, but at the same time, I really wanted to get by. But yeah, the pressure paid off in the end, and he made a bit of an error. I managed to get past, but yeah, absolutely mega race.
I did say to Tim in the comms, I said that'll be on Aidan's Twitter feed a bit later on tonight as a highlight reel. And normally does. I mean, if memory serves me correctly, when you had the Audi at Suzuka and you did 5 moves around the outside at the Kobayashi hairpin, that was a pretty mega job.
Just pushing every lap. The Aston's a really good little car. I was actually surprised how fast it was. With the ballast on board as well, but the Porsche, definitely following the Porsche for so long, you can see the strengths of the Porsche, but obviously it's not as good on the brakes as the Aston, I don't think. Whether that was just driver preference, braking a little bit earlier, or whether it was just car differences as well. But as Aaron said earlier, like the standard of driving is mega. I think there was a bit of an issue going into T1. The top 10 for that first 20 minutes were literally glued together, and it was insane battling. I think there was one touch where I feel like it was one of the Mercedes might have gone round or something at the hair. But yeah, the standard of driving and the caliber of driver is amazing, and obviously it's great to have real drivers as well joining in the fun as well. So yeah, really happy.
Brilliant stuff. Well done tonight, Aidan. We'll see you in a week's time at Zolder.
Cheers, everybody.
Okay, well, Tim, I think maybe we'll leave the next couple of interviews to your good self. First up, let's head to Dave Marshall. Tim, take it away.
Sure. I mean, Dave, what a battle to be involved in. We saw for the first, half of the race, really, that top 10 were barely separated by a few tenths. How were you keeping your focus during that opening gambit?
Well, first of all, that little touch on the hairpin on the car, that was me, my bad. I've got to hold my hand up there. It just seemed like I came in, used my usual braking point, and there was a big Chevy in front of me, and it just seemed to, I don't know whether he was trying to get an undercut or what, but just decided to stop at mid-corner, and I was fully on the brakes, and there's not much you can do when there's a pack of umpteen cars behind you as well. So, sorry to whoever that was driving the Chevy, nothing malicious there. It was just, one of them things where there's nothing I could do. But yeah, regarding the racing, I put a lap in qualifying, which, if I'm truly honest, surprised me. I've only just jumped in the car and on this game tonight. I've never driven the GT4 car before, so didn't really have any expectations, but I want to finish top 10. And yeah, pulled a quali out the bag, and I thought, if I'm honest, I probably out-qualified beyond my position there a bit. I expected, as I say, probably top 10, but definitely not towards the front of the pack. So felt a little bit intimidated, pull away from the line, and thought, I might get eaten up fair quickly here. But luckily, the pack behind me were battling hard enough there, and that allowed us to just get that clean breakaway. And then I saw Button get through, and I know from quali we were on a similar pace, so yeah, I could relax a bit then. And yeah, I mean, what a standard driving from Simsport, eh?
Exactly. I mean, it's thrilling, isn't it? I suppose, like you say, you turn up in the car, and before you know it, you've got a Jensen Button in your rear view mirror. How was it racing against these big names? Was it good fun? Did you find it was exciting, really going wheel to wheel with these guys? So, yeah, basically, I do a lot of stuff on Assetto Corsa with Virtual Reality Racing Club, but I'm also part of Zancho. So Ed got in touch with us, and I said, I'm signing up for this thing, Simsport GT4 on a Wednesday night. And he said, do you think it's something the pros won't get involved in? And sure enough, Jensen is also on Zancho, so Ed invited them. So it was really nice, to bring, about 7 pros, I think, along to this race and to Simsport. But obviously, done a lot of work with Simsport in the past. So yeah, I mean, it just brings such quality to the grid, and it really attracts drivers, doesn't it? Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Dave, and stellar job. Looking forward to some more battles, including yourself, going forwards this season. Thank you very much.
Well done, Charlie. Great performance.
So yeah, moving on to the man who finished P2, Charlie. How was that race for you? Obviously, once again, we saw at the weekend in GT3, close, but not the win you've been looking for still.
Yeah, I think I just need to overall improve my quali pace. Keep on lacking in that department.
Yeah, and is that really the one change you make? You seem to do a good job of keeping clean when there's some fighting going on. Really, what is it that you think is going to take you to that win, especially in the GT4, which seems to have evaded you?
It's just going to be just being consistent the whole way through. I was quite consistent in this race, but I started too far back to catch Burke.
Definitely. So obviously going forwards into the next round, you're going to be further down the grid. What's the game plan? Is it all guns blazing, make every move, or is it, are you going to, if you learned something from this race, are you going to pick your fights where you need to? What's the plan going forwards?
I'm just going to sit back and let everyone else do their thing and hope for a crash in front of me so I can avoid it.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you very much, Charlie, and thank you guys for a fantastic opening race.
Yep.
Okay, a big thank you to all our interviewees. Tim, shall we wrap things up here, up in the commentary box?
Yeah, of course. I mean, thank you very much for having me, Alex. Thank you for welcoming me into the virtual comms room. What a fantastic start to the season. I don't think I can emphasise how good a race it is. Having been in a few of these belters, it's fantastic to be here watching one and trying to bring something to it. I mean, a fantastic battle at the front. God, I still can't get out of my head, there was these 10 cars bumper to bumper for quite a large proportion of the race, and what a fantastic start to the season.
And there we have on our screens for those watching at home, Pietro getting a bit interactive with all the fans, and really good to see not just him fight his way back after the issues obviously with the pits, but then also Cameron 5. So good to have Pietro with us as well. He's very, very accomplished, and look, he's still got a smile on his face, and you can see that even the pros are not having it easy, because you can see by the horizon full of his chest, he's definitely been breathing heavy during that race. It's not easy behind the wheel of a sim.
That's the smile of someone who knows they've lost fair and square. I mean, I know Pietro had the problem with joining the grid at the start, but he knows, you can tell that he knows he really had to dig deep to fight for that. And that just shows the calibre of racing here. Someone who's a Formula 1 driver, professional drivers show up and they can't find themselves at the front. They don't know what to do. They've got, the likes of the Simsport guys really giving them a hard time. It's fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some more of it in this season.
Well, that really wraps up things here on Simsport Racing, the place to race. Once again, a big thank you to everyone that's involved. A big thank you also to our broadcast director, Mike Yao from Simply Race. A big thank you to him for the fantastic camera angles that we have every single time we go racing. As you can see on your screens, our official website where you can meet the team. I'm down at the bottom right. But then you've got the likes of Steve Haley, Aaron Walker, Steve Proudly. Really good job from everyone behind the whole community, and we pride ourselves as Simsport Racing being founded on both friendship and respect, and everyone has such a laugh behind the scenes. You know that full well, Tim, and it's been a pleasure having you alongside me in the virtual commentary box here at Imola.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. And like you say, it's a fantastic community, and one great race will follow this one, I'm certain of it. So yeah, thank you very much once again.
No problem at all. And as you can see, this is going to be a regular feature for season 4 and maybe even beyond. Tim's top tips, and we'll talk about that on the build up towards each race. And I think pretty much Tim's top tips were spot on there. But a big thank you to everyone that has tuned in. A big thank you to everybody that supports this community throughout everything that we do. And also a big thank you to all the professional drivers. Jensen Button, Sebastian Prio, Pietro Fittipaldi, Michael O'Brien, Alex Buncombe, and Luca Burke and Dave Marshall. A big thank you to them all for turning up tonight and giving us one hell of a show. On behalf of myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Tim Fullbrook, the entire Simsport Racing community, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in a week's time for Zolder on the 20th of January. Good night.